Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Arc podcast. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about trade rumors as it begins to heat up with the trade deadline right around the corner. Specifically, we're going to be talking about Ja Morant. We're going to be talking about Trae Young and what happened with him. We're going to be talking about just some teams that are intrigued with specific players that could be moving forward. So without further ado, let's get right on into this. So let's talk about the trade that just happened. Of course, CJ McCollum, Corey Kispert go over to Atlanta in exchange for Trae Young to the Wizards, right? Now, what does this mean for both teams? For the Hawks, it means that they've just gotten off of that Trae Young money. They don't see him as that future piece for them to compete for a championship. Yes, they had one good run, 1 year, where they made the Eastern Conference Finals. After that, it just hasn't been competitive enough for them to really secure and really believe in Trae Young being that number one option. Now, so what they did is they went and got a guy, CJ McCollum, that's going to be a free agent. They can just let him walk, have that money open up, and kind of wipe their hands clean of the Trae Young experience. And then you also get Corey Kispert in the deal that is a good 3-point shooter. He's a bit of a sniper, just really a low risk kind of player. He fits in the same category of like a Luke Kennard, somebody like a Bogdan Bogdanovic that they've had before. Just a 3-point shooter that's going to be able to provide solid play for you for a team that kind of lacks from the 3-point line, having guys like Dyson Daniels shooting a career low. I believe it's 12% from the 3-point line. So bringing in someone like Corey Kispert is going to help compete with that. As far as what the future looks like for the Hawks, they could still make another move. You know, they have Kristaps Porzingis money sitting right there. They've got, of course, a plethora of assets here. It feels like they need a center. But yeah, overall, I would assume that they would be a team that could potentially make one more move. Maybe bring in a guy, maybe bring in a center play. Maybe the Anthony Davis thing does happen. I don't think it will happen now just because they're kind of looks like they're retooling with the whole acquiring that Pelicans pick from this NBA draft. They moved off Trae Young. So they're kind of in this retool figure. And maybe they're looking at more of like a San Antonio Spurs rebuild where you aren't necessarily tanking, but you just acquired picks. Those picks have then become great picks, and then you also move off of your star, like the Spurs did a few years ago, or the Thunder did a few years ago as well when they moved off of Paul George and got the plethora of picks in return. If you're the Wizards and you're a Wizards fan, you gotta like this, right? You didn't give up a lot. You didn't have to throw in a pick or anything to get a guy like Trae Young. Trae Young is a player that can average 27 and 10 on any given night. He is a player that can carry a team to an Eastern Conference Finals. He's a player that if you put the right supporting cast around him, he can be successful. And he's also a player that there is zero pressure on him at all in Washington. Currently, they're the 14th seed. They have 10 wins on the season. They're currently sitting at probably having a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. They're going to bring in another young guy. Hopefully they get into that top 3 if you're a Wizards fan. And then you're over here looking at an AJ DeBonsa. You're looking at a Darren Peterson. You're looking for a Boozer Boy, right? That's that would be best case scenario if you're the Wizards. I would love to see them with a guy like Darren Peterson. I think that he's underrated, honestly. I know the whole he's not playing in games, that I'm not worried about that at all. In the NBA level, I'm not worried about him not playing in college. I think if anything, he's taking his time, really making sure that this injury isn't serious, and then he'll be back when he's ready to be back because we've already seen everything we need to see. We know he's going to be a top 3 pick, if not a top 5 pick, right? I'm not worried about this dude at all. I think he's going to be a legit NBA player. I think he's going to be, wherever he goes, he's going to be successful. So the Wizards, though, they've got a bright future. Trae Young is not old. I think he's 28, 27. Like, he's a young dude. And he fits, like Alex Sarr screams the need of a point guard, right? This roster screams the need of a point guard. Them specifically, I just think that they've got good players, but they need that leader. They have Alex Sarr, they have Keyshawn George, they have Trey Johnson, Chris Middleton is still here, Bilal Coulibaly's still here, Cam Whitmore, he's still there, Bub Carrington's been playing well. Like, then you bring in Trae Young. I like this roster. I think that this can do something, not this season, but next season, or, because think about it. Yeah, you bring in a top 5 pick. You just kind of let Trae Young just kind of ease into the rotation, see what he can do with a guy like Alex Sarr. And then you really evaluate what you have this offseason. And you go make a move or two, kind of tweak a thing or two. And then you're coming into the 2027 season really hitting the ground running. And this is a team that could take a big leap. This is a team that this season, it's not going to be the season. Maybe, I guess in theory, maybe the Wizards could somehow, they're 7 games back from the 10th seed. And we're almost at the halfway point in the season. So that's where I don't think that they're going to make that leap. I think they're going to kind of hold Trae Young, or if they do allow him to play, I don't think they're going to be playing in super competitive games. Just kind of understanding with Trae Young too, like, hey, opt into your player option. We'll give you this longer deal here in the future. Or even if he doesn't opt into that player option and they just restructure his deal and give him an extension now, that could possibly be a thing that we see here. It seems as if Trae Young, at the end of the Hawks experience, didn't want to be there, right? He wants to be playing for a team that wants him in the city, right? And the Wizards were one of the only teams in the NBA that were like, oh yeah, we'll look into it. We would love a guy like Trae Young. We need a point guard. Point guards and for the price that they paid for a guy that averages 27 and 10, they got a steal on the market. I think that they absolutely won this deal because you didn't give up any picks. You didn't have to give up a single pick is phenomenal. And the Hawks, whether or not they waive CJ McCollum here in the next few days or whatever, I don't know why you would, but maybe you just do waive him, get him off the books, let him go play for a championship contending team. He goes and plays for like the Lakers or something like that, who can seem to always need more bench. But I'm very excited about the Wizards' future with this roster. I'm very excited about what Trae Young can do with a guy like Alex Sarr. Because if he can make guys like Clint Capella, who, if he can make him look good, I can only imagine what he can make the number 2 overall pick in last year's draft look. So that's all I'm saying about the Wizards is I think they clearly won the trade. I think it was a move that the Hawks had to make, of course, but I think that the Wizards, if you were to give a winner and a loser, I think the Wizards win this deal because you didn't give up anything. You gave up a guy that just makes a lot of money, and you gave up a guy that needed to go to a new system in Corey Kispert. So let's talk about some NBA rumors that are kind of heating up. The Grizzlies have come forward and say they are listening to phone calls on Ja Morant. So ESPN posted 4 trade offers for Ja Morant that could be exciting, that could bring in some shake up to the league, right? Let's start with this first deal. It is Miami receiving Ja Morant, Memphis receiving Tyler Hero and Simone Fontecchio. Now, if you're Memphis, I think if you're trading Ja, you're kind of hitting a little bit of a reset button. You need to go get some picks and some young assets. Does trading for Tyler Hero and Simone Fontecchio really push the needle for you that much? Maybe it's similar to like the Trae Young idea where it's kind of like, all right, let's just move off of Ja. He's not providing us as much value as we're kind of, we're kind of expecting out of a guy like Ja, a former number 2 overall pick. He, of course, has been in the suspension issues, had the injury issues, that whole 9 yards. And also his game, let's be honest, his game is not going to last long term, right? As he progresses and gets older, he's going to get slower. He's going to get less bouncy. He's not going to last as long. It's similar to the Derrick Roses of the world. It's similar to right? I mean, a guy like Russell Westbrook is able to do it, but he's also putting in 110% effort on every single play. I don't see that out of Ja Morant. I don't see that intensity out of Ja Morant. I don't see the want as much as you see a guy like Russell Westbrook, who's made the all-time scoring point guard in the NBA, right? So if you're Miami, though, if you give up Tyler Hero and Simone Fontecchio, I think you could get better value for Tyler Hero than just getting Ja Morant back. Because, like, sure, your depth at that point, you have Ja Morant, Bam Adebayo, Kelly Oubre as your big three. Like, I don't love that. I don't love it for either side, to be honest. I just think that, I mean, I guess it would just be a fresh start for both Tyler Hero and Ja Morant. If the Heat are just like same way where they're ready to move off of one of their stars, this could be a move, I guess, but I don't like it. Milwaukee receives Ja Morant. Memphis receives Kyle Kuzma, Kevin Porter Jr., and a 2026 first-round swap. The Pistons then get Gary Harris and cash. I mean, do we like Ja and Giannis together? Like, Dame and Giannis did not work, right? They didn't run enough pick and roll together, and Ja loves to run pick and roll. They don't have another center there. I guess they have Bobby Portis, but I don't like this deal either. I think Detroit getting Gary Harris, that's cool. They could use some three-point shooting over there. But yeah, overall, I'm not impressed with these two trades so far. As of the first two, Memphis getting Kyle Kuzma, Kevin Porter Jr., and a first-round swap, like, it's just not going to be swapped. The Bucks, currently, the Bucks are sitting at 11. The Grizzlies are sitting at 10, right? Like, I mean, the Grizzlies are 16-22. The Bucks are 17-21. It's just like you're talking about pins and needles at that point. There's really not going to be a difference. One pick further, sure, cool. But I don't love that either. For Ja, I mean, it would just genuinely be like, you're just getting rid of him just to get rid of him. Kyle Kuzma, Kevin Porter, 2026 first round swap. I guess it would be like to get off the money of Ja Morant, to wipe your hands clean of Ja Morant. But let's see if any of these we have two more deals here for Ja. And let's see, Toronto receives Ja Morant. Now this could be interesting. Memphis gets Emmanuel Quickley, Akbaji, and a 2026 first round pick, which is top 14 protected, which if the NBA ended right now, the Grizzlies would get their pick. This, I think, is the best deal so far for both parties, right? If you're Toronto, they're one of those teams I've talked about in previous videos that they're one of those markets that free agents aren't going to love going to because they're not this LA or New York or Boston or Miami. They're a smaller market team. Yes, they got big because of Drake and because of their championship run that one year. But genuinely, they've had to, these markets, the Pacers, the Kings, the Wizards, those teams that are kind of smaller markets, your free agency is in the season. Your trade deadline is your free agency offseason, where you have to kind of go and pay and trade for big names if you want to bring in big names, if that's how you're going to win a championship, right there, because you're not going to sign, you're going to get your big names. LeBron's not being like, yo, I'm going to go sign in Toronto. No, he is going to go to LA like he did. Luka is not going to go sign in Toronto or, I'm trying to think of a big free agency move. Like, I can't even off the top of my head. Russell Westbrook didn't ever go to, he went to Sacramento finally, sure, but as far as like, that's out of his prime, way out of his prime. He went to Houston, bigger market, right, than Memphis. or then Toronto. So Toronto then trades for Ja Morant, just like they did last year when they traded for Brandon Ingram, and then they signed him to an extension. So then you're running a lineup of like Ja, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl. It's actually not the worst. I think there's a bit of a spacing issue there. Brandon Ingram can shoot the three ball pretty fine, but as far as like Ja, Scotty Barnes, I mean, the pick and roll would be there. That's exactly what you're looking for with Ja, is like a downhill pick and roll kind of offense that you can run with Ja Morant. And if you're the Raptors, you get off Emmanuel Quickley, who's been good, not great. You give the Grizzlies 2 young guys and a first-round pick. So honestly, this is the best deal on the table. And if you're the Grizzlies, yeah, you get to take a chance on Emmanuel Quickley, see what he's really all about. You've got young pieces there in Jalen Wells already. You have Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey. It's still a younger team. You bring in Ochai Agbaji. You bring in that first-round pick, whatever that is. Right now, I think it would be like in the 20s. But yeah, I actually don't mind that for both sides. I think that's the best trade so far. Now, the last trade that I have here, it's a 4-teamer. The Timberwolves get Ja Morant. The Grizzlies get Rob Dillingham, Naz Reid, and a 2027 second-round pick. The Wizards get Terrence Shannon Jr., and Utah brings back Mike Conley. So, I mean, realistically, Utah and Washington are just there for facilitators. The Wizards getting Terrence Shannon actually seems pretty solid. The issue I have here is the Timberwolves would be, in theory, giving up Rob Dillingham, Naz Reid, Terrence Shannon, and Mike Conley in exchange for Ja. Right? I understand that 4 players going to 3 different teams, but I mean, if I'm Memphis, I'm doing this deal in a heartbeat because you bring in Rob Dillingham and Naz Reid. Naz Reid can be a perfect guy off your bench. And I mean, that would change. Rob Dillingham is cool. In my opinion, I think he just kind of needs a fresh start. I think I would love to see him in like Sacramento Memphis would be cool because there is not the solidified starting point guard there, especially if Ja is gone. But yeah, I don't love this deal because the Minnesota Timberwolves would have very little bench depth. They would have like Dante DiVincenzo. And yeah, I mean, so you'd be running Ja, Ant. I mean, I don't really love this actually. The more and more I'm like, yeah, Ja, Ant. You'd have Jaden McDaniels. You'd have Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert. Like, talk about a spacing issue. That is a spacing issue. At least Mike Conley can stretch the floor for you. Naz Reid can stretch the floor for you. And if I am Minnesota, I'm not trading Naz Reid, right? I'm not. I'm trading Julius Randle, right? I don't think he kind of fits what they're looking for. Julius Randle for like a 2-for-1, right? 2 solid players where you get that guard. And then, I mean, shoot, what they should really do is if the Hawks waive CJ McCollum, they got to be hopping on that because he can play the 1, but he's really known for a 2. But I think if you run this Ant CJ McCollum experiment, he can stretch the floor. And then if you trade Randall for 2 solid players, you go and talk to, I don't know, you attach like Rob Dillingham in a couple seconds, and you go talk to like, I don't know, Brooklyn. You go talk to the Kings about something over there. Bring in back like a Zach LaVine. Bring in, and then you start Naz Reid. That's my whole thing is like, you trade Julius Randle for 2 depth pieces, right? And then you sign CJ McCollum, and then you bring in, whatever depth pieces. Maybe you go talk to the Clippers because they need to win games. So you go talk to the Clippers about Bradley Beal's making like 11. Bogdanovich is over there. Maybe something like that can happen. But what I'm saying is, like, what the Timberwolves need to do is focus on depth, and they need to get a point guard. And CJ could be that answer if he's waived, because he hasn't been waived as of right now. There were some fake posts about him being waived and all that. I haven't seen anything breaking from Shams or from ESPN, so I'm not saying anything. But I 1,000% of all four of these trades, I would say Toronto has the best deal here, just for both sides. I think that's the best trade for both sides. Young assets going back to the Grizzlies. As the Raptors are the 4th seed right now, and the East being as open as it is, I think now is your year to kind of swing for the fences. Why not go trade for Ja? What do you have to lose? I mean, and then maybe you go explore options for RJ Barrett too. So, all right, let's look at these standings real quick. Let's start with the Western Conference, as we have the Thunder at the top, right? Working our way down. The Thunder followed by like the Spurs, the Nuggets, Timberwolves, Lakers, Rockets, Suns, Warriors, Trailblazers, Grizzlies. Teams that are on a hot streak. I think that the Clippers will they're making a push. They're going to get into the play-in. And they're going to be a scary team to face in the first round. Like, with Kawhi playing the way Kawhi is, I still think a team like I think people are figuring out the Thunder. So I don't think people are scared of the Thunder anymore. I think it's similar to when the Celtics won their championship, and then last year they didn't perform as well. It's because people figured out, okay, if we can just defend the three-point line, if we can just defend the three-point line, or if they're not as hot from the three-point line as they were last year, then we'll be good. And the Thunder, it's, hey, if we just force others to score other than Shea, can they? Is there really a secondary star there? Because so far this season, they just haven't seen it. Now, if I'm the Thunder, I don't want to play the Clippers. I would rather play the Suns, Warriors, Trailblazers, Grizzlies way above any other than the Clippers. And yeah, it is rough if you're a Thunder fan and you're thinking it's going to be another cakewalk to the finals, because you're going to have to go through the Spurs. You're going to have to go through the Nuggets. I think the Timberwolves are going to make a move. I have an inkling that they're going to make something happen here where they're going to go get a point guard. I don't think it needs to be nothing crazy. I think they could be in that CJ McCollum sweepstakes if he does get waived. And yeah. Now, last thing I want to talk about too is the Pelicans are set at the 14th seed. A report came out from CBS that the Pelicans won't make Zion available. Not only are they not making Zion available, but the Pelicans, according to Chris Haynes, will not make Zion, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Derek Queen, or Jeremiah Fears available for trades. Now, I understand the two rookies, right? Jeremiah and Derek, you really want to see what you got out of them. You spent a lot to go get those guys. You used those first-round picks on them, so you might as well see what there is. But if you're Zion, Trey Murphy, or Herb Jones, why are you not at least listening to calls? I don't get it. This season, already, it's clearly a wash. You're 9-31. You have played almost half your games, and you don't have 10 wins. You're not going to make the play-in as you're 7 games back. You're a team that they're just hoping that Zion gets healthy and then puts up this monstrous string of games to then make his value insane. But it's just, they need to do what the Hawks just did. They need to say, hey, Zion's not our future. And I also think people will pay a bag right now for Trey Murphy. What they're going to do is they're going to screw themselves because Trey Murphy, his value is at an all-time high. Right? Herb Jones, his value, I think teams will overpay, because I think if they say, hey, look, we'll take calls on Trey Murphy, we'll take calls on Herb Jones. Maybe what they're doing is they're saying, hey, they're not available, but then somebody comes in with an extreme offer of 3 or 4 first round picks and they just can't not take that. Sure, maybe that happens. But I think at least not saying, hey, we'll listen to these calls. We're not in a rush to trade these guys as they're young. They fit our timeline. We're not sweating. We believe in Zion, whole 9 yards. Okay, cool. But then I think they would get more offers if they did that versus them doing what they're doing now, which is no one's going to be available. Because to be honest, in the NBA, in order to make it, in order to make the finals, in order to win a championship, in order to be a successful organization, you have to be able to draft, you have to be able to sign free agents, you have to be able to make trades. It's that obvious. You have to be able to hire the right coach as well. Right? The Thunder, who just won a championship last year, made trades for guys like Alex Caruso, signed free agents such as Isaiah Hartenstein, drafted guys like Chet, like J-Dub, like Cason Wallace, traded for guys like Shea. You're not going to win a championship. You're not even going to get close to good if you're just a team that's like, hey, we're not going to trade anything. We'll trade you our bag of bones, 15th man on the roster. That's not going to get you anywhere. That's going to get you at the bottom of the West again. Then you're trading up for guys in the draft. They're going to play well for you, Derek Queen. But is that really doing anything for you? I completely understand the idea of not trading Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears. Sure, you want to see what they really rock out to be. But Zion, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, doesn't make any sense that you're not at least listening to phone calls. Like, what are we doing? The Knicks gave up 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. Trey Murphy could be a better version of Mikal Bridges. He could be this championship contending wing that could bring in, and you're not even, like, this Pelicans roster isn't even close to a championship. If you were a team that, sure, you were a 3 seed last year and you made it past the first round, okay, I would understand that you're like, hey, we really want to see what we got here first. But you're at the bottom of the West, and you've been at the bottom of the West year after year after year. And sure, you traded Brandon Ingram, you traded Josh Hart, right? You moved off of AD. But you moved off Lonzo. But where's it gotten you? It hasn't gotten you anywhere. But holding on to valuable pieces isn't going to do anything for you. Instead, this draft has a bunch of players in it that can provide a ton of value for a team that needs young talent. If you can, go talk to the Thunder or the Spurs, go get one of those top picks, because the Thunder have the Clippers pick. If they can get the Clippers pick and the Clippers, Kawhi gets injured or James Harden gets injured and they fall, and you can get 2 top 10 picks, that can change an organization. That can be, what if they don't have their own first round pick, is going to Atlanta. You have to be good. That's what's crazy. Is like, you haven't shown anything. So I guess maybe in theory they're like, oh, well, we don't need to trade those guys because we have to be good, but you're not winning games. I just don't know what the Pelicans are doing. I really don't. I don't understand it. They're a dysfunctional organization. I think they should move out of New Orleans. I think you send them to Vegas or Seattle or, I don't know, Vancouver or freaking Nashville, San Diego, somewhere else, because it's just a little brutal to watch that this team year after year after year is just bad. They're just not good. And like I said, you don't have to trade those guys. Just listen to the phone calls, though. That's all I really got to say. So last but not least, let's talk about some Eastern teams, as we didn't really touch too much. We talked about the Hawks and the Wizards, I guess, but I want to just say, hey, shout out to Boston. Jaylen Brown's really proven his value. I think Boston's going to have a tough decision this next year. I'm a Celtics fan, right? I'm wearing a Kings hat because I'm from Northern California, but I'm a Celtics fan through and through. They're going to have a tough decision, and I have said on this podcast that I personally would trade Jaylen Brown for Cooper Flagg straight up when it came to that draft night and everything. I still would love to see Cooper Flagg in Boston, for sure. I'm still on board with that idea of what if we moved off of Jaylen Brown to go grab a ton of assets from somebody else for a guy that we for sure believe is a superstar. But I'm thinking Boston is going to have a tough decision here soon. Because, like, what if Jaylen Brown doesn't want to be a second fiddle on some nights? He wants to just be the number one option. He wants to be the guy. So he's like, hey, look, you're going to have to pick one of us, me or Tatum. I wonder who Boston would pick. I mean, you invested a lot in both. They work very well together. They've proven to win a championship together doing so. One was a finals MVP. The other played well in the finals, not to the level we kind of expected, but you know, this duo has been fantastic together. It's just intriguing to think about what if one of them is like, hey, I want out, or hey, you got to pick one of us, right? I don't know if they're going to be together for their whole entire careers. I would love to see that, right? But then, yeah, if Jaylen Brown proves he's like this season, hey, look, without Tatum, I'm the number one option. We're the 2 seed in the East, right? We genuinely could use a little more like around the roster to fill it in, but I can be the guy. I've already proven that I'm a finals MVP. So what if you guys pick one of us and you trade off the other one to go gain more assets? So you say, hey, if you're Jaylen Brown, you're like, hey, trade Tatum. Tatum can get us, I don't know, Tatum, shoot, a lot of teams would answer the phone for Tatum. I mean, you go talk to the Spurs about De'Aaron Fox. You could go talk to you could call any team and they're going to be like, oh, Tatum, well, what do you want? And just, you could get in the Giannis sweepstakes. You could get in the Giannis sweepstakes with Jayson Tatum for sure. And it wouldn't take too much more. Now, I think that the Celtics, I like I said, I hope that they keep those guys together. I really do. I think they play very well together. I think Tatum needs a guy like Brown around him, and I think Brown is proving that he doesn't necessarily need a full-on Tatum, but they play better on the court together, I think. But yeah, it's the theory of like Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, how what if Pippen had went off on his own? That's the same theory we're kind of seeing right now. I know I'm not saying that those guys are the level of Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. I'm saying that what if Jaylen Brown wants to just be the number one option? And this season is a blessing in disguise where the Celtics get to evaluate that because Tatum's not there. He's injured, right? We didn't see that with the Bulls where Jordan missed an entire season. We didn't get to see what a full Bulls roster looked like with Rodman, with Pippen, with Steve Kerr, with Horace Grant, and with Pippen as the number one. We didn't get to see that, so we never know. This season, though, Jaylen Brown has carried this team to a 2 seed with guys like Neemias Queta being the starting center. That's kind of impressive. So you think they go and talk to the Bucks and say, hey, Tatum, we're going to send you over there. We're going to bring in Giannis. He's going to be our 4 or 5. And could be rocking and rolling. That's an intriguing thing to think about. Is like, what if the Celtics did go call up the Bucks and we're like, yo, Giannis doesn't want to be there anymore. We'll give you a superstar. Yes, he's coming off injury, but Paul George came on injury and he was in MVP conversation. Top 3 in MVP voting that year when he was a Thunder. Right? I mean, Kawhi hurt his leg, came back, played for the Raptors, won a championship. It's just intriguing to think about that you can have the Bucks. My whole thought process with the Bucks was, hey, what if they just trade Giannis for basically a bunch of youth and draft picks? But no, what if they instead were like, we could trade him for Jayson Tatum, and then we use our pick to go get some rookies, and Tatum's our guy surrounded by Cameron Boozer, surrounded by Darren Peterson, surrounded by AJ DeBonsa. It's just something to think about. As a Celtics fan, I haven't thought about the idea of, hey, what if, because Tatum is one of my favorite players. But as an NBA podcaster, as somebody who loves the NBA as a whole, what if we flipped that and said, hey, instead of Jayson Tatum being the franchise guy, what if Jaylen Brown is? I mean, I also think like there's something of like an eye test as well. And I think a lot of the times, how do I describe this? Jaylen Brown doesn't necessarily pass the eye test as a number one option. Tatum, there's flashes where you watch him and you're like, oh, duh. This is why they drafted him so highly. This is why they flew under the radar with the Sixers and smokescreened them to draft Markelle Fultz so that they could take the guy they really wanted in Jayson Tatum. This is why Jayson Tatum has been 19 for the last 10 years. I mean, he is a guy who's dunked on LeBron. He's a guy who's been, and like I said, everything that he's done, also Jaylen Brown's done. So that's where it's a little Batman Robin, but the Celtics are just figuring out who's Batman, who's Robin. Can you afford Batman without Robin? Or what does the team look like with a Batman without Robin or a Robin without Batman? It's very intriguing to think about and think about out loud too of, hey, what if the Celtics go talk to the Bucks about Giannis? What if the Celtics call up the Mavs and say, hey, we want Cooper Flagg. We'll give you Tatum. And like, obviously there's some money matching and all that. But what if they go call the Spurs and they say, hey, we want De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox and one of the young guys. You could choose between Harper and Castle. We'll give you Tatum. What if they go call up, I don't know, because I'm thinking more Western Conference teams, because the Bucks one would be hard, because I don't know if the Bucks would trade him, trade Giannis to the Celtics to then pair Giannis with Jaylen Brown, and then you have to play, the Bucks 4 times a year with that. So Western Conference, you'd be looking at, hey, what's up with Chet with the Thunder? Let's get Chet, J-Dub over with the Celtics, and you guys can have Tatum. What about a package with, let me just go on to the Western Conference here. Jamal Murray. If they call up the Nuggets and they're like, hey, we got Tatum. You guys want Tatum? We want Murray. Do the Timberwolves? No, I don't think the Celtics would call them up. But the Rockets? Hey, Tatum for KD? Tatum for Amen Thompson? The Suns? I mean, is there really... They're not going to give up D-Book, so... Like, would the Warriors give up Steph Curry for Jayson Tatum? If Steph Curry was like, I want out. Interesting. I wonder... I doubt it. That's not going to happen. That's crazy. That's all crazy talk. But yeah, other than that, I mean... I don't really see the other teams doing anything. But yeah, Western Conference is interesting because, of course, you would have to trade him over to the Western Conference. Eastern Conference, though, like, do the Magic move off Paolo for Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown? And that's just very intriguing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. So this has been another episode of the Beyond the Arc podcast. I appreciate all your guys' love and support, the viewership. I'm trying to be as consistent as I can. I do work a full-time job, so sometimes it does get a little dicey there when it comes to uploading consistently. But I'm doing my best, right? So I want to be able to provide content for you guys. So if you guys do like, subscribe, and comment down below what you guys think of these trades. What do you think of Ja to the Heat, Ja to the Raptors? What do you think of Tatum to the Bucks? What do you think of Tatum to the Nuggets? So without further ado, it's been another episode of the Beyond the Arc podcast, and I'll catch you guys in the next.